What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Early Edge. I'm your host, Alan Bell. We got a fantastic show lined up for you today. But before we look at today, let's take a look at how we did on Thursday. And not bad here. I can't count too well. What is that? For 7-6? Yeah, 7-6. So, all right. But for a game that was pretty awful last night, man, like we had some props that came through for sure. Matt Ryan, thank you for throwing interceptions as well as the Broncos using Brandon McManus. I'm telling you, whenever you see a Broncos game, just take Brandon McManus, their kicker, over 1.5 field goals. Like, this team will not put in touchdowns at all, and McManus will get work over and over and over. So, yeah, there you go. All right, let's bring in the stars of the show. Look at my guys here. First up, my man, Emery Hunt. Now, Emery, first off, hello, obviously, good to see you. But I've got to say this. My man Schwan in the chat said, Emery rolling up on a moose today. There we go. Look. I love
exactly.
it.
Riding in on moose back. Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. And again, if you don't have a rotary phone, don't call me. That's the type of vibe we on. You only reach me by, you know what? Winning these props, props and parlays, you only gonna be able to reach me by pager. Like, let's go old school. Don't get in touch with me.
We need to break. Look, first off, man, I remember that era very well. And look, pager codes, like that's what it was all about. Like, you had your code for who you were, and then you had codes for like how important or what the message really was.
What we were trying to say.
Yeah, I'm putting a payphone in my house. We stinking these parlays.
Bring your quarter. I love Chip Patterson. How we doing, sir?
Man, we're doing fantastic. This Friday show has become such a highlight for me the week. You know, we work, we grind, and this is just fun. Obviously, like, chat's popping. The audience loves it as well. So I love that this is our crew. It's a great way to get the weekend started right.
Dude, it really is. And for everybody asking about Coach, he's got some things going on in terms of selling a former house that's in Connecticut. Also, his kids were born up there, so they're seeing teachers and friends and all that. Like I promised, Coach will be back for sure, but this is a big thing for his family, so I want to make sure that we gave him space and time to do that. But trust me, he's texted every 20 minutes like, hey, man, I'm ready to get back. I miss all you guys. I miss the crew. I miss the audience, so I assure you, Coach will be back. He'll be ready, fired up. All right, let's get into the storylines that affect the betting lines for today. And, Chip, coming over to you, man. We're talking about when coaches get fired, all right? Did teams really respond well in that next game, or is that just a myth?
This is what you've got to take into consideration. And obviously our eyes are mostly this week going to be on Wisconsin against Northwestern. Paul Chryst out. Jim Leonhard takes over. You've got Wisconsin as the favorite here against a woeful Wildcats team. Over under sitting around 44. Do you think that Jim Leonhard, the defensive coordinator, is all of a sudden going to bring a spark to Graham Mertz and the offense? I think that's something that you might want to consider in your handicapping of the game, especially on the total. We're going to have to wait a little while before we see how it goes with Colorado, as the Buffs are going to be off this week. They fired Carl Durrell last weekend. But we look back at what we've seen. Nebraska did have a little bit of a performance once Mickey Joseph took over. We did not necessarily see the same thing from Arizona State, though I do think the Sun Devils have been feisty. You just always want to take into consideration what to do. And finally, this is going to be the one that might be a little bit of a red herring. Georgia Tech beating Pittsburgh. Hey, Chip, there you go. There's an example. That's a dead cat bounce. I argue that was more about Pittsburgh being sloppy, turning the ball over. You look at it on a down-to-down basis, Pitt was better. So, look, not all the way a myth, but there is sometimes some truth to it. You just got to be very careful on a case-by-case basis. And this weekend, it's going to be with Wisconsin. So take that into your handicapping. Where is the motivation of the team, and what is the impact of whoever's taking over as the interim coach?
Yeah, that's well said right there. All right, now let's take a look at our schedule that we have for today, because we've got a full loaded schedule on Friday. All right, so we've got this show. We've got the NFL Player Prop Best Bets Weekly Edition at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll host that, but you know the stars of that one. It's going to be Prop Stars, Uncle Dave, and Sia Najad. And then we will have the Early Edge in 5. I believe, Snake, is that one at 3:30 Eastern today? Are we moving? That one's moved up, right?
Correct. Yeah, 3:30 Eastern. You got it.
That was a dynamite drop in right there, my dude.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so, all right, 3:30 p.m. Eastern for the Early Edge and 4 p.m. Eastern for the Player prop show. Okay, let's get into our picks for today. But before we do, let's take a quick break and hear from one of our partners. And we are back. All right. So both of you, loaded slates of college football. And you guys, this is why I love you guys to death. Like, you don't come with like one game. You come with multitude of games. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to get out of your way. Emery Hunt, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, we got to give the people what they want. And I saw in the chat, someone asked if we had a Grambling versus Alabama A&M play. Yes, we do. Lay those 8.5 points with Alabama A&M until Hugh Jackson decides to put the G back on the helmet for Grambling. They're going to be in disarray. Their offense, although they got a great running back, fantastic guy, NFL prospect, but the rest of the offense collectively is just not good. So lay those 8.5 points with Alabama A&M and what they do out there on the field. So let's get to these Friday plays. There's a big game tonight between UNLV, San Jose State. I just gave this play on CBS HQ this morning, but here's the thing. Everyone wants to talk about how fun this game is going to be. It's going to be fun because it's two good teams. They're fighting for number one in the West Division of the Mountain West Conference. But right now, the over-under, I believe, is at, 45 points or 52 points. Take the under. These two teams have really good defenses. Lay the under with this play. I think both defenses will step up and show themselves handsomely in this ball game. Another Friday night play in the Ivy League. Cornell takes on Harvard. Usually Harvard dominates Cornell, but here's the difference this year. Cornell has a fantastic quarterback. I interviewed him last season when he was a freshman, and he was making a lot of plays. Jamison Wang, fantastic dual threat guy, and they've won a game already. They've been competitive. Their defense is competitive. Harvard's defense is not as stout as it usually is, so I don't trust this 10.5 point spread. Take Cornell and the points. And another Friday night play, this time in the CFL, you have Saskatchewan taking on Hamilton. I have not seen a team collapse as much as the Rough Riders have this season. They can't run the football. They've struggled with turnovers. They've been inconsistent since they started to get bit by the injury bug earlier in the year. And now they're on the back end. They had a chance to win this crossover playoff spot, but that looks to be gone. And they're facing a team in Hamilton that's not good this year, but they're much better on defense right now and on offense than Saskatchewan. So lay the 2 points with the Tiger Cats. Now on to Saturday. We have a big matchup. Fordham. Always follow Fordham in the season. Why? Because they score a lot of points. So lay these 10 points with Fordham against Lehigh. It scares me that it's only 10. They should blow out Lehigh, but I'm not going for the total this one. I think that Lehigh may show up because it's a conference game, but lay the 10 points. Also, I just like how casually quarterback Lindsey Scott Jr., who I've referenced on this show, who last year was a stud at Nichols, he's now transferred to Incarnate Word. Just casually last weekend scored 7 touchdowns, 4 passing, 3 rushing. The over-under in this game against Lamar is 67.5. If you heard me last week about these big overs, trust me when I'm talking about FCS football, lay the points, go over this total, I'm saying. And lastly, Washington State's a 12.5 point underdog to USC. Great former FCS quarterback in Cam Ward. But more importantly, I feel like Washington State's defense matches up well against USC. This one will be a very tougher game. This one will be a game where Washington State will try to play up to the competition. Should be an excellent matchup, great matchup, close game. I don't think they'll get beat by 12.5 points. Take the Cougars and the points here against USC. And those are all the plays I got for you guys this week.
Dude, all right. So, exactly. Like,
Listen, when he tells you to take that over 67.5, do not be afraid. That thing cashes with like 14 minutes left in the game. It doesn't matter whether it's the 67 or whether it's the 47. Like, when Emery tells you, you just follow him. You follow him down to the dock, you get on the steamboat, and you go straight to the pay window.
Exactly. Remember last week they were complaining, people were worried about Fordham going over 67.5. That game ended up finishing with 98 points.
And you said it might be 100. And you said
you did.
Yeah.
Fordham goes into the game seeing how much the scoreboard can hold. So lay the 10 points with them over Lehigh.
So, okay. So first off, let me say, look, my man Russell Wilson, he wants to go by Mr. Unlimited. Nah, Russ, that's Emery. Dude, you are Mr. Unlimited because you could go in any game, any league, any country, right? Well, yeah, exactly. Like, we don't even have to limit this to the contingent 48 states. Let me also say this. My man Pooh Bear, and Pooh Bear, shout out, had me on his podcast last night. Thank you much, sir. I appreciate that. He said, my man Emery even got picks in Little League games this week. Like, dude, he's got all of it down. Like, there is not a game being played that my man Emery does not have the info and data on. So I love it. Emery, well done, sir. As always, well done. And also, I was watching on CBS Sports HQ right before we came on, you and Jacqueline, man. You crushed it every time. Every single time, man. I love it. All right, Chip, coming over to you, dude. Because as similar to Emery, you got a handful of picks too. And everybody wants them. What you got, bud?
All right, we're going to start on Friday night, and we're going to go with that Nebraska-Rutgers game. Eyeing the total here because since we saw the changeover, Scott Frost fired, Mickey Joseph taken over, both results for the Cornhuskers have gone under the total. Now, they were big numbers, 65 and 62, both going under. This is a big step down. But why, Chip? Why is this a big step down? Because Rutgers is involved. The offensively challenged Scarlet Knights, Greg Schiano wanting to play ball control, rely on the defense. And I think that in this particular spot, the only way that Rutgers is going to be able to have a chance to win this game is to just bend but don't break. Don't let Casey Thompson light you up. I think they're going to be a lot of ball control. Let the clock run. I mean, this is one of those, I talk about my process where Monday night, I fire on just a thought on my notepad. Like, okay, what do I think about this game? Nebraska, Rutgers, Piscataway, Friday night, under, baby. I mean, it just feels good. Just like a nice fall hoodie. Turning the page on to Saturday, one of the biggest games of the entire day. There's a big 12 game. It ain't happening at the State Fair. It's happening in Lawrence, Kansas, as TCU and Kansas are going head to head. The winner jumps sort of into the driver's seat, you could say, for the Big 12 title race. I think that the driver's seat is going to be driving 100 miles an hour for both these teams because Kansas's one flaw, as I break them down, is on the defensive side. Jalen Daniels is terrific, and I think that Lance Leipold does a good job of scheming them up. TCU also, if Dylan Gabriel had been in the game for Oklahoma for all 4 quarters, I think TCU still would have won because they just were going to keep scoring. But I think the Sooners would have had some success as well. Both of these teams so much stronger on the offensive side. I think it turns into a little bit of a track meet. So we're going TCU, Kansas over 69. Finally, we're going to take it to NC State against Florida State. This is a spot where the Wolfpack have to be a little bit concerned about, what's the classic term is you don't want to get beat twice. You have that tough loss at Clemson. You were so excited about it. Well, let me just turn to this. My guy Goodson always hits me with the NC State nuggets, a Chick-fil-A nug, as AB would say. One of Doran's best qualities is getting his better teams off the mat after a gut punch loss, and sometimes when their biggest goal has been snatched. In the last 2 years, NC State is 4-1 straight up, 5-0 against the spread following a loss. Dave Doran is able to get this group up and able to get them refocused. No hangover, no letdown. We'll take NC State and lay the short number. Also, some of y'all might think I'm just hating on Virginia. Virginia, team total under. Fade Virginia, take Duke. Well, you know what? It's actually kind of a Duke thing. Duke is a good football team. The number has not caught up to it yet. They've got a short number against Georgia Tech. We are going to lay those points. Georgia Tech beating Pitt, as I mentioned, was a little bit of a red herring. It does not represent the way the game played out. That was a Pitt issue, not necessarily a Georgia Tech issue. But shout out to Brent Key for being able to get that group fired up and motivated after the dismissal of Jeff Collins. But I also want to add this little bit of motivating factor into my handicap. Because last season, Duke had beaten Northwestern, beaten Kansas, actually gotten off to a pretty good start. But this was the game that broke the Blue Devils. My opinion is that this is a game that Duke played well enough to win and let get away. Georgia Tech stole this win from Duke, and I think that was the beginning of the end for that team and that roster. The veterans that have bought into Mike Elko are going to look at this as shout out to our guy Kenny White, the Wizard of Odds. College basketball season, he's always going to tell you about the revenge game. This is a revenge game for the veterans on Duke's roster. They do not want to let Georgia Tech hang around. They cover the short number. And finally, 3 games so far for the Stanford Cardinal against FBS opponents. Now, granted, they were pretty quality opponents, USC, Washington, and Oregon. But in those 3 games, Stanford has been outscored 83-24 in the first half. This is not a Stanford team that gets off to a good start. This is a Stanford team that needs a couple series to even collect themselves. Not a good sign, but especially not going up against an Oregon State team that I do respect. We've got a first half number here at -4, given the fact that Stanford has been outscored 83-24 in the first half in the last 3 games. I think the Beavs can cover 4 by halftime.
There we go. Hell of a breakdown right there. All right. So real quick, got a question in the chat from our man Glenn. Does Chip or Emery like the over in Memphis and Houston tonight? I don't have that number handy. I know that Memphis is a 2.5-point favorite at home against Houston. Let me pull up. I'm looking up the total right here.
The total's 57.5. And I think there could be some value in taking Houston. I think that is that's a team that everybody is really trying to sell quickly. And
Yeah.
Memphis is 4-1, but like, you tell me which of these 4 wins really jumps out at you. Is it Navy, Arkansas State, North Texas, or Temple? Like, are we pushing Memphis out to the forefront based on winning 24-3 against Temple? I mean, I think it's a middle of the pack American Athletic Conference team, but I just, in terms of market price, you might have some value on a Houston team that has played poorly, but is probably on like a talent level better than Memphis.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. They are a better team than their record indicates. And although you can't knock North Texas, but still, I mean, Houston should win this game, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. There we go, man. Appreciate you guys. All right.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm not playing it because it's also quit watch. Like, if Houston, like, we will know by the end of this game whether Houston is checked out or whether Dana has checked out on Houston. Like, this is definitely putting a team that has already fallen so short. I mean, they won 12 games last year. We were talking about them as a New Year's Six team, as a team that could compete for the American Athletic Conference title, especially after Cincinnati lost all those draft picks.
Yeah.
And now you're like looking at them through the start of the season, and man, it's a tough go for the Cougs. So
it's a different look. No, you're right, man. Like, I mean, even like last week was tough to watch for Houston, man. Yeah, I feel.
Hey, listen, I will say this though. When you think about, Memphis and if Memphis is not running the football like they've done in the last 5 years, when we always are talking about some back that is going to be an NFL player, then Memphis is in trouble. I don't think Memphis is running the football like they've run the football in years past. So again, everything screams Houston, but to Chip's point, you got to figure out which Houston team shows up. This is like betting on Miami,
Oh yeah.
So which is the U back, or are we at the U is average? Which one? You got to catch them early when they beating up on Southwest Mississippi A&M. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, definitely, man. That Miami, like, that's a perfect example. All right, one last question real quick, and then we'll get to the recap here. All right, our man Hal says, what about the under for the Vols on Saturday? Hey, let me tell you this. Tennessee, if you're going to take anything Tennessee, I would do it early. And if you're going to take anything LSU, I would do it in the second half. I think the under is going to come into play heavily here. It keeps getting steamed up. It's already at 65. Like, I think it's going to be a tighter game than people think. Like, LSU's defense is legit, especially in the second half of these games. They're getting better by the week. And I think your boy at quarterback Daniels for LSU is going to have a game. Like, he's going to look good. So, yeah, man.
I think well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chip. I'll wait till after you.
Well, the game plan for LSU should be to, like, limit the number of possessions for Hendon Hooker. Like, that's like
that's what Napier did with Florida, and it worked. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
I mean, but you've got a pretty good running back. Like, you hope that your running ground game is going to be able to build everything out from there. That is the way that LSU wins the game, is to try to shorten the game. And so I kind of like the under there too. What do you think?
I laid this pick out on HQ this morning. I'm definitely taking the under, and here's why. This game, everyone talks about Tennessee's tempo, pace. They score. They can move the football down the field. They don't punt. Great. That sounds a lot like what people said about Mississippi State and their up-tempo offense until they ran to that big brick wall called LSU coverage, LSU pressure. And I'm not saying that Tennessee is a bad football team. They're much better than Mississippi State. But LSU's defense, and to Chip's point, how they play offense, yield this one going significantly under 65 points. LSU is about possessions. They love to slowly grind. They pull you down into the muck with them, and they muck it up. So go under. LSU actually has a chance to win this game because it's going to be so close and their defense is so excellent. And they finally did what they should have did in week 1 was start Harold Perkins. He is their Micah Parsons on that defense. He is outstanding as a rusher, as a traditional linebacker, in coverage. So now, to your point, AB, they're getting better each and every week. The defense is excellent. We're now getting the good version of the more, of John Emery, where he's getting his sea legs underneath him, and his offense is going to get better as it goes on. We know Jay Daniels is down for, clutch moments. We just got to get them to start fast. If they start fast offensively, Tennessee will get blown out, but this game will be close because LSU's defense and run game will keep them in it. So I do like the under there.
Yeah, I completely feel you there. And LSU's defense, man, they cause turnovers constantly. Like, they're constantly making an offense put the ball on the ground. And if you do that against Tennessee, like not only keeping their offense on the sideline, but you're getting short fields too, like that defense will give up points to you quick. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I think we all agree on that one. Yeah, under definitely the play. All right, grab your paper, grab your pencil. Let's take a recap here. It is glorious. Chip Patterson, Nebraska, Rutgers under 50.5, TCU, Kansas over 69, NC State -3.5, Duke -3.5, Oregon State first half -4. John Bowman from yesterday, but the game is today. Guardians money line -125. Jacob Fettner, same deal. Pick from yesterday, but the game is today. Nevada -3. Emery Hunt is on Florida -10. Lamar Incarnate Word over 67.5. Washington State +12.5. Cornell +10.5. UNLV. San Jose State under 52. In the CFL, the Hamilton Tiger Cats -2. And 2 plays from Major League Baseball from me today. Postseason starts today. Cannot wait. Guardians team total over 2.5. And the Blue Jays team total over 3. So, like I said, we'll be live today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern for the early edge in 5, 4 p.m. Eastern for the NFL Prop Show with prop stars Uncle Dave Richard and Sia Najad. Gentlemen, any final thoughts that you have before we head out of here?
If you guys want to see the Czar, the playbook on TV tomorrow, be sure to watch the Morgan State, Norfolk State broadcast because I'll be the color analyst. So watch that game. And if you're in the Harrisburg, PA area tonight, I have the let me look at my calendar because I am old school. I still write stuff down. I have the Cumberland Valley and Central Dauphin High School football broadcast on CBS 21. So you're going to see a lot of the Czar this weekend on TV. But Morgan State, Norfolk State, check it out. 1 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Plus. I don't know if I could say that on this show, but
yeah. Hey, if you're on it, you can say it. Hell yeah, dude.
Well, better dressed than the hoodie I got on right now.
You look fantastic, especially repping the team right there. No, this is the 1 p.m. ESPN Plus is where we find Emery and also Emery's winners. Like that's the window right there. All those games right there.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, early edge in 5. Be there, but until then, best of luck. Let's cash these tickets. We'll see you later today. Thanks.